Hi, I'm Mike from Muskie Train. Here at Muskie Train, we test every lure we make before we put it in the water. The biggest thing I found with customers is after they catch a fish, sometimes you have to retune your baits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do it. Here we've got an MX7 walleye. We just put it together. I'm going to cast it out, and I've already casted this bait once, and you're going to notice that after I cast the bait out and I reel it in, I'm using a high-speed reel. You can see that the bait is out of tune and it's running up on the surface. When the bait is running out of tune, I'm going to bend the screw eye or the through wire, depending on what kind of bait it is, and I'm going to bend it in the opposite direction. I like to use good jaw pliers, and I'm going to bend that nose over just a hair. Now I'm going to cast it out, and I'm going to repeat the process. Okay, the bait is still out of tune. You can see that it's not tracking back to the rod and reel. So I need to bend the eye more. As a fisher person, you need to learn how to tune your lures, to either tune them up or tune them down. What I mean by tuning them up or tuning them down, you can control the wiggle of your lure. Okay? As you can see, the lure is now tracking straight in. And I don't know if you can see the lure in the water or not, but it has a nice wiggle to it. There's several things you need to know how to do as a lure tuner. First of all, if the lure is tracking left or right, you need to bend the screw eye or the through wire. If the lure is corkscrewing or spinning, that's when you need to turn the screw eye. We'll cover through wire tuning of baits that are corkscrewing at another time. Also, after you catch a fish, sometimes the nose or the line tie is still in tune, but what happens is the screw eyes on the base or on the belly get turned. So make sure they're parallel, or if they get bent, you need to straighten them back up. Good way to check that is just getting them by holding them by your pliers, and make sure that your bait is perpendicular to the jaws of the pliers. You're not going to actually be able to see the lure coming back in the water, so I'm going to kind of explain it to you. When you cast your lure out and you start reeling it in, this lure is tracking to the right of the rod, so it's right of center. If you think of yourself as the center point, you're either right of center or left of center or in tune. When the lure is running to the right, so it's out of tune, you're going to take your pliers and you're going to bend your line tie to the left in the opposite direction. You're going to have to do that several times. The biggest mistake people make when they buy lures is not every lure manufacturer takes the time to test their lures. Muskie Train prides themselves in teeing their hooks and tuning the lures before you get them. So when you open them out of the package, they should be ready to go. Now, it's going to take you several times. I suggest to learn to tune lures, you go on a calm day, go to a dock where you have some deep water access and there's not a lot of pressure. Don't try to do it on opening day because you're just going to get frustrated. In high wind situations, you're going to have problems. Different lures react to different snaps. The biggest mistake that I see that people make is they use way too big a hardware. Okay, you can see on this, I'm not even using a leader to test lures. But if you're not fishing structure, you don't need a wire leader. If you're fishing someplace like St. Clair, you can use a fluorocarbon leader. If you're just open water trolling, you can use a fluorocarbon leader. You do not need to use a wire leader. And every time you go with heavier hardware, you're going to get a different reaction out of that bait, and you're going to have to tune it. So the bigger your ball bearing swivels, the bigger your snaps, the more action you're going to lose out of that lure. You don't want to lose the action. You want as much action as possible. So I've tweaked this lure a little bit. Let's get back on topic, and I'm going to cast it out and we're going to see what's going to happen. Give me a second here. As you can see, I cast straight out. If you look at the dock as the 0, and as I reel it in, okay, I overtuned this lure. It is running slightly to the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend it back just a hair. Now, you can also at this point If it's just out of tune a little bit, you can just turn that screw eye just a hair. But let's take a look at it and see what it's doing. Also, when I tune my lures, I am using a high-speed reel with a big handle. That allows me to simulate the trolling action. Okay, you can see that this bait is now tracking true. Sorry about that, I popped it out of the water. We'll cast it out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to crank hard, and I can see that that bait is tracking true. It is now ready for the customer to go to the store, wherever it's going. There's other tips about tuning that we'll talk about in the next segment. Thank you.